The first time an ancient girl saw blood, she didn't think, "I'm growing up." She thought she might be dying. No doctor rushed to explain it. No mother always had the right words. There were no textbooks, no sanitary pads, and no internet to answer the question racing through her mind. Why is my body bleeding? For thousands of years, that single moment terrified millions of girls. Some were celebrated as women overnight. Others were separated from their families. A few were even believed to possess mysterious powers. And the truth behind their first period is far stranger than anything Hollywood has ever shown. History remembers kings, warriors, and empires. But it almost forgot the moment that every civilization quietly depended on. Because before there were queens, before there were mothers, there was a frightened young girl trying to understand the blood she had never been warned about. Today, most girls experience their first period between the ages of 12 and 13. But in the ancient world, things were very different. Life was harder. Food was less reliable. Diseases were common. Children worked long before they became adults. Because of poor nutrition and harsh living conditions, many girls didn't begin menstruating until 15. Or 16, although the age varied from place to place. That sounds like a small detail, but it completely changes the story. Unlike modern women, ancient women usually had far fewer menstrual cycles during their lives. Frequent pregnancies, years of breastfeeding, illness, and shorter life expectancy meant many women spent much of adulthood either pregnant or recovering from childbirth. Ironically, the average woman today experiences hundreds more periods than most women living thousands of years ago. But eventually, every girl faced the same terrifying mystery: blood without a wound. Imagine waking before sunrise, feeling a strange pain deep inside your body, then discovering your clothes stained with bright red blood. No accident, no injury, just blood. To us, the answer is obvious. To an ancient girl, it could feel like the beginning of death. And that fear wasn't irrational. Without biology or modern medicine, the human body was filled with mysteries that even the wisest people couldn't explain. Then came another problem. The bleeding didn't stop. What do? There was no store to visit, no products designed for comfort. Everything depended on what your community had learned through generations of trial and error. Ancient Egyptian women are believed to have softened papyrus into absorbent material. Greek and Roman women likely folded linen or wool into reusable cloth pads. Across parts of Asia, women adapted paper, woven fibers, or cloth, depending on local traditions. Many indigenous communities developed ingenious solutions, using soft moss, bark fibers, grasses, cattail fluff, or other natural materials found in their environment. These weren't random inventions. They were the result of centuries of observation and experience. Human beings have always been remarkably good at solving problems, even when they had almost nothing to work with. But surviving a first period wasn't just about stopping the bleeding. It was about surviving what everyone else believed the blood meant. Because that's where history takes a strange turn. Across the ancient world, menstruation became wrapped in mystery. Some cultures believed a girl's first period marked the moment she became spiritually powerful. Others believed she needed temporary separation from the community. Some ceremonies welcomed girls into adulthood with gifts, songs, or guidance from older women. Others surrounded menstruation with strict rules, based on religious or cultural beliefs. The same drop of blood could transform one girl into someone honored and another into someone feared. The biology never changed, only the story people told about it did. And those stories shaped millions of lives. Yet here's the greatest irony of all. The people creating those beliefs often understood almost nothing about what was actually happening inside the human body. Ancient physicians observed menstruation, but they couldn't see hormones. They couldn't see the ovaries. They couldn't see the uterus preparing for pregnancy each month. Without microscopes or modern science, they filled the gaps with theories, traditions, and myths. Some of those ideas would survive for centuries, even though they were completely wrong, and the consequences reached far beyond a girl's first period. Because once a girl experienced her first period, her life often changed overnight. In many ancient societies, menstruation wasn't simply viewed as a biological event. It was treated as proof that childhood had ended. Families that had seen a daughter as a child could suddenly begin preparing her for marriage, motherhood, and adult responsibilities. That transition varied dramatically across cultures, but one thing remained remarkably consistent. Her future was no longer imagined. It had begun. Yet history hides another surprise. Not every ancient tradition was rooted in fear. Among some indigenous communities, a girl's first menstruation was marked with ceremonies where older women shared knowledge that couldn't be found anywhere else. They taught her how to care for her body, explained what to expect, and reminded her that she wasn't alone. Think about that for a moment. Long before classrooms, long before hospitals, long before modern medicine, women became each other's teachers. Knowledge wasn't printed, it was whispered. Passed from mothers to daughters, grandmothers to granddaughters, older sisters to younger sisters. That quiet chain of wisdom may have protected more lives than any ancient medical text ever could. But not every girl had someone to guide her. Ancient physicians, including influential Greek thinkers like Hippocrates, tried to explain menstruation using the medical knowledge available at the time. Their theories were based on the balance of bodily fluids, a framework that modern science has since disproven. Without understanding hormones, ovulation, or the reproductive cycle, even respected doctors often misunderstood what menstruation actually was. When science cannot answer a question, human imagination usually does. That's why myths spread so easily across different civilizations. People believed menstrual blood could bring blessings or disasters. Some thought it carried healing power. Others feared it could spoil food, damage crops, or anger unseen spirits. Today, none of those beliefs are supported by scientific evidence, but they reveal something fascinating about human psychology. When people don't understand something powerful, they often surround it with stories. And few things were more mysterious than a body that could create life. Here's the part that history rarely tells. We know the names of emperors. We know where famous battles were fought. We know who built monuments that still stand today. But we know very little about what happened inside ordinary homes when a frightened young girl experienced her first period. Why? Because cloth rots. Natural fibers disappear. Private conversations are almost never recorded. The everyday lives of ordinary women rarely made it into history books, written by kings, priests, or political leaders. That means millions of voices have been lost forever. Historians reconstruct this story from archaeological discoveries, surviving medical writings, artwork, and cultural traditions. But some questions may never be answered with certainty. And maybe that's exactly what makes this story so powerful. Behind every empire, every dynasty, every civilization that changed the world, there were girls facing one of the most confusing moments of their lives. No scientific explanation, no certainty, only courage. They adapted to whatever materials they had. They relied on the wisdom of women who came before them. They kept moving forward despite fear, pain, and misunderstanding. That resilience became invisible because history rarely celebrates ordinary people. But perhaps it should, because the survival of every civilization depended not only on warriors who fought battles, but on young women who quietly endured one of life's greatest transitions. Today, science has replaced many ancient myths with understanding. A first period is no longer a mystery of spirits or curses. We know it's a natural part of human biology. Yet the emotions surrounding that first experience, fear, confusion, embarrassment, curiosity, and relief, remain deeply human. Thousands of years have passed. Empires have risen and fallen. Religions have spread. Technology has transformed the world. But one moment has remained, almost exactly the same. A young girl looks down, sees blood for the very first time, and wonders what comes next. The difference is that today, millions of girls can find answers instead of silence. Maybe that's the greatest lesson history leaves us. Progress isn't measured only by the monuments we build or the wars we win. Sometimes it's measured by whether a frightened child has someone who can simply say, You're okay. This is normal. And you're not alone, because history wasn't built only by the people whose names were carved into stone. It was built by countless ordinary girls whose quiet courage was never recorded. Yet without them, there would have been no kingdoms, no civilizations, and no future at all.